You're not on the guest list. This place isn't meant for someone like you. 9:00 a.m. in the grand lobby of the Whitaker Grand Hotel, where chandeliers cast shimmering light over marble floors once walked only by those who knew how to bow. Black CEO kicked out of her own hotel. 9 minutes later, she fired the entire staff. Naomi stood still. Her eyes drifted up to the gold-plated emblem on the wall. The same wall her mother used to clean, the same floors she once quietly followed behind a mop cart. The receptionist didn't even look up. The real contempt came from the heels clicking toward her. Angela Morton, executive manager. Are you lost? We're not hiring janitors today. Naomi's hand tightened slightly around her bag. Her gaze didn't waver. I'm not here looking for a job. The answer froze Angela's smirk mid-air. Behind them, a few guests turned their heads, whispering, sensing something was about to break. Something irreversible. What happens when the woman they looked down on stops hiding? Stay tuned. Naomi walks deeper into the lobby, heels silent against polished floors she once cleaned as a teenager alongside her mother. She keeps her shoulders square, posture neutral, almost invisible if one isn't paying attention. But the moment she crosses the golden trim that marks the edge of the executive access hallway, tension starts to build in the air. Like she's stepped into somewhere she shouldn't be. At the far end, the front desk receptionist glances up again, frowns, and taps a button under her desk. Moments later, a woman in a navy blue blazer and stilettos approaches briskly, her blonde bob sharp as her tone. Angela Morton doesn't introduce herself. She doesn't need to. Her name tag glints beneath a brooch shaped like a crown. She gives Naomi a once-overs, eyes lingering with trained disapproval. "Excuse me," she says, smiling thinly. "You seem a bit lost. This area is restricted to board appointments or senior-level guests. Are you here to apply for housekeeping?" Naomi says nothing at first. She reaches calmly into her handbag and presents a cream envelope embossed with a wax seal marked W, Executive Files. Angela doesn't touch it. Instead, she lets out a soft, mocking laugh and raises an eyebrow. "Sweetheart, you can't just print something fancy and expect to walk into the control room." Behind her, a bellboy smirks. A couple passing by glance sideways, whispering. Naomi gently places the envelope on the edge of the reception desk and returns her hand to her side. Her eyes shift to the elevator, the one her mother used to wait beside with a mop cart, the same one she once saw her mother nearly slip into when water spilled under the brass trim. Angela follows her gaze and clicks her tongue. "Look, I don't want to escalate this, but please return to the public lounge area or we'll need to call security." Naomi turns slightly, letting her fingers brush over a faded scratch on the wooden banister, still there after all these years. The room around her feels smaller than it used to, but she remains unmoved, her voice level. "I'm not here to apply," she says simply. "I'm here to observe." Angela stiffens at the ambiguity. She misreads it as vague entitlement and waves a hand dismissively. "Well, observing isn't allowed either. This isn't a museum. I'm going to have to insist you leave the executive wing. Now." Naomi doesn't move. She simply looks around again, cataloging things. The staff, the new brass clocks on the wall, the silence from the others watching. Somewhere behind her, the receptionist whispers into a headset. Naomi hears it. "Possible disruptor, female, mid-50s, refusing to leave," but shows no response. Angela straightens her posture, already framing herself as the face of the hotel's order. "We'll make this easy for you," she adds, stepping forward. "You can wait outside while we sort out what exactly you're trying to do." Naomi looks down at the envelope still untouched on the counter, then back up at the woman who just dismissed her without even knowing her name. Still, she says nothing. Not yet. Angela waves over a hotel guard. Ramon, broad-shouldered, olive-skinned, wearing a black uniform with a thin earpiece and a clipped radio at his waist. He approaches without hesitation, glancing at Naomi as if she's already done something wrong. "Ma'am," he says firmly, "we're going to need you to step away from this area." Naomi doesn't flinch. She calmly reaches into her bag again, this time pulling out a slim, navy badge holder with a silver emblem barely visible inside. She opens it a few inches, just enough to suggest authority, not enough to reveal it completely. Angela leans over, squints, then scoffs. "That's not a valid guest pass. I don't care what you're trying to prove," she hisses. "The executive level is not open to the public, and your attitude right now, honestly, it's making everyone uncomfortable." Naomi slowly closes the badge holder and places it back into her bag. "Uncomfortable," she repeats softly, almost to herself. She glances toward the elevator again, remembering how she stood at that very spot nearly 30 years ago in an ill-fitting gray suit, clutching a resume she'd typed at the public library, only to be told during her internship interview that she didn't quite match the hotel's image. The voices in the lobby start to lower, not out of concern but anticipation. Some guests sense a confrontation brewing, and instead of intervening, they settle deeper into the leather chairs as if waiting for a show. Angela tilts her head and steps closer, her heels clicking against the marble. "Let me be clear," she says, her tone now sharper. "You have no appointment, no visible ID, no reason to be here. If you don't leave voluntarily, we'll assume you're a security threat." Naomi tilts her head slightly, as if studying Angela under a microscope. Her face remains calm, posture loose. "You assume quite a bit," she answers. "Ma'am," Ramon presses again, voice louder now, "I need you to move, right now." Naomi turns her eyes toward him, expression unreadable. "And if I don't?" she asks. Her voice is quiet, but its calm slices through the room more sharply than any raised tone could. Ramon shifts his stance uncomfortably. "Then I'll have to escort you out." Angela folds her arms, pleased. This is your last warning. A few guests glance over from the velvet-lined lounge, sensing tension, but no one speaks. Naomi breathes in slowly. "I am requesting access to internal records housed on the 6th floor, she states. "Specifically, the Financial Archives server room behind the Oak Ridge Conference Suite." Angela stiffens. Her eyes narrow. "You memorized the floor plan? Who do you think you are, some kind of consultant? We don't give tours of the boardroom wing to curious passers-by." Naomi takes a single step forward, her voice now slightly firmer. "I need 5 minutes. I won't touch anything. I won't disrupt your staff. But if I am denied access, you may be violating the hotel's own internal policies." Angela lets out a short fake laugh and waves a dismissive hand. "Bradley's going to love this." "You're quoting our policy manual now? Please." The reception desk buzzes with whispered calls. Kelly, the receptionist, has already sent a security escalation notice. Naomi sees her fingers trembling slightly as she types, though her face remains stone still. Across the lobby, a well-dressed white man, Bluetooth headset's sharp suit, mutters, just loud enough to be heard, "This is why security needs facial recognition these days. Anybody can walk in." Another woman murmurs, "Entitlement's getting out of hand." Naomi doesn't respond, but she hears it all. She sees how no one steps in, how even the staff she once helped train look through her like glass. Ramon places a firm hand on her shoulder. Naomi doesn't resist. She doesn't flinch. She simply says, "You're making a mistake." Angela gestures toward the entrance, signaling to clear her out. "Escort her, gently but firmly," she instructs. "And please record everything. People like this always claim harassment after the fact." Ramon pulls lightly at Naomi's arm. Naomi doesn't move. You should really wait until Bradley arrives, she says evenly. Angela sneers. Bradley doesn't meet with trespassers. Naomi doesn't blink. He already has, many times. He just never saw my name. A pause. A flicker of doubt dances across Angela's eyes, but she buries it under a laugh. Oh, I doubt that, she snaps. You'd be unforgettable. Naomi says nothing else. Not yet. She just turns slightly, eyes on the elevator again, and in her bag, her phone buzzes once. She sees the name light up. Board Ops, Internal, WGH2 Protocol Authorized. She doesn't open it, not yet. Angela doesn't wait for another word. With a snap of her fingers, she steps back and nods at Ramon, who grips Naomi's upper arm a little tighter now, not with force, but with enough pressure to say, "You're done here." Naomi turns her head calmly toward him. "You can let go," she says, not pleading, just instructing. Ramon hesitates for a second, but Angela cuts in. "She's refused multiple requests. Escort her out. Now." Her voice rings through the marble-floored lobby like a gavel. Heads turn. Conversations hush. The morning sun streams through the tall windows, spotlighting Naomi, as if the building itself had cast her for judgment. The moment feels cinematic, but cruelly so. Naomi doesn't resist. She doesn't yell. She straightens her posture as Ramon moves behind her and begins to guide her by the arm toward the revolving door. Halfway there, Angela calls out with a derisive laugh, loud enough for everyone to hear. "Next time you want a tour, sweetheart, maybe book a room you can afford first." A couple of guests chuckle nervously. The receptionists exchange glances, half smug, half unsure. Naomi slows her steps. She turns her head just enough to glance back at the front desk, at the untouched envelope marked W Executive Files, still resting exactly where she left it. Kyle, a young black bellhop standing silently near the edge of the lobby, clenches his jaw. He's seen this before. Different people, different uniforms, same insult. His hand, inside the pocket of his vest, tightens around his phone. He's already been recording for the past 30 seconds. When Angela shouted across the lobby, something in him snapped. The camera is angled discreetly, facing the marble floor, but the audio is crisp. Ramon continues guiding Naomi toward the doors, but she doesn't speed up. She walks as if counting her steps, as if every tile beneath her heel has meaning. Just before they reach the threshold, Naomi stops. Her voice is still low, still composed. "Before you put your hands on people, you should ask yourself who you're handling." Angela scoffs again from behind. "Don't get dramatic. This is standard procedure for trespassers." Naomi looks at her. For a full, solid second, she says nothing. Then, slowly, she reaches into her bag. Not for the badge, not for her phone, but for the photograph. She pulls it out, unfolds it carefully, and holds it in one hand. In the picture, a 17-year-old Naomi beside a proud, smiling black woman in a housekeeping uniform. Behind them stands the glimmering sign, Whitaker Grand, Grand Opening, 1993. Anster narrows her eyes. What is that supposed to mean? Naomi doesn't answer. She looks at the photo for another beat, then places it gently back inside her bag. Her fingers tap her phone once. A single message goes out. Initiate WGH2 internal review, archive surveillance feed. Confirm board presence. Back at the front desk, Kelly's monitor flashes red with a pop-up. She freezes. Angela?" she says nervously. Angela doesn't respond. She's still glaring at Naomi, her irritation now bleeding into something less certain. Kyle quietly slips into the employee hallway, ducking behind the service door. He uploads the video he recorded, adds a short caption, and sends it to a friend who runs a TikTok page about justice in luxury spaces. Then he reemerges, silent, composed. Naomi is standing just outside the doorway now, Ramon still beside her. She turns toward him and gently says, "That's far enough." There's something in her voice, a finality, a gravity, that makes him hesitate. She looks toward the street, then back at the hotel entrance. Her fingers brush the strap of her bag again, her thumb resting over the metal clasp. Inside, her phone lights up once more. Alert sent, board ops internal, access override pending. Back inside, Kelly watches her screen as lines of code flash. She leans toward Angela. This can't be right. There's a protocol. It's tagged with CEO authority." Angela turns sharply. "That's not possible. She's not even—" But the color drains slightly from her face. Naomi looks back one more time through the glass door and catches Angela's eye. And for the first time, she speaks with clear precision. "You've mistaken silence for submission. That ends now." Then she walks away, but not far. Angela storms into the operations hallway, heels stabbing the floor, fury masked as composure. She doesn't look at Kelly, who's still frozen in front of her screen, or at the two bellboys whispering near the luggage desk. Her eyes lock on the elevator panel as she jabs the button for the executive level. Upstairs, she finds Bradley Stone, regional director, mid-50s, beige-tailored suit, silver hair slicked back like polished marble. He's reviewing a wine contract on his tablet when Angela bursts in. "We've got a situation in the lobby," she says flatly. "There's a woman, unauthorized, aggressive, causing a disturbance." Bradley raises an eyebrow. "Describe her." Angela shrugs. 50s, black, middle-class look, probably some social activist trying to test boundaries. She had this fake envelope marked executive files. Very performative. He sighs and sets down his tablet. "Jesus, another one of these influencers doing a race-baiting stunt?" Angela smirks. "I handled it. Security's escorting her out, but she started name-dropping policy codes like she knew something." Bradley waves a hand. "Fine. I'll come down and do the clean sweep. If she's filming anything, we'll issue a privacy claim and take it down." He straightens his blazer and walks toward the elevator, arrogance wafting off his every step. By the time they return to the lobby, Naomi is standing near the far window wall, staring out toward the courtyard fountain. She hasn't left. Ramon is close by, but no longer holding her. The atmosphere is charged, silent but restless. Bradley walks up with Angela trailing behind. "Good morning," he says sharply. "My staff tells me you've created quite a stir." Naomi turns her head slowly, her gaze steady. "Your staff made assumptions." "I followed the hotel's internal protocol for asset review." "Nothing more." Bradley tilts his head as if humoring her. "Ma'am, you are not authorized to audit anything within this facility. And this isn't the kind of place where people demand access without appointment. This is a luxury property, not City Hall." He glances at Angela, signaling permission to escalate. She jumps in. "Let's be honest. If you're here to expose some systemic injustice for social media, that's cute. But you'll need to take it outside. This is private property, and quite frankly, you're affecting the experience of our real guests." Naomi raises an eyebrow. "Real guests?" she repeats, the phrase like glass in her mouth. Bradley smiles without warmth. "Let me rephrase. Guests who are actually paying for the service." A couple nearby snicker. One of them, a hedge fund manager with a glass of orange liqueur, mumbles, "Entitlement's a disease." Naomi doesn't flinch. "You're dismissing a request for access that falls within the governance of the board's oversight clause," she says calmly. Clause 3.51, subsection E. Bradley's smile fades just slightly. Angela scoffs. "There's no way you know that unless someone fed you internal info. You should leave now, before we contact authorities for impersonation." Naomi says nothing. She doesn't argue. She simply pulls her phone and taps a code. At that exact moment, the lobby's primary display screen, normally used for promotional slideshows, flickers once, then pauses. The screen on the lobby wall turns black for a second, then flashes a simple system line. Accessing protocol WGH2. A loading bar appears below it. Bradley's jaw tightens. Angela's smirk falters. Naomi doesn't even look at the screen. She keeps her eyes on Bradley. "You were saying?" she asks, gently, but the tone cuts deeper than raised voices ever could. Bradley gestures sharply toward Ramon. "Take her out. Now." Ramon hesitates. "Sir, the system just responded to her input." "I said escort her outside," Bradley snaps. Angela moves in, voice suddenly louder. "This is now criminal impersonation of an executive. She doesn't belong here, she doesn't work here, and that envelope is fabricated. I want a statement on file and police notified." A few guests gasp. One begins filming. "You need to back off," Naomi replies, voice still low, measured. "If you choose to pursue this, you'll be doing so in direct violation of the board's chain of command." Angela laughs sharply, one hand raised in mock applause. "You practice that line in front of a mirror?" she spits. "Because it sounds like you rehearsed it on your way over from wherever the hell you think you came from." Bradley steps forward. "This is over." He pulls a pre-printed form from the counter, sliding it toward Naomi. "You're being issued a notice of trespassing. Sign this or we'll assume you're refusing and proceed accordingly." Naomi glances at the paper, then back at him. "No one's asked for my name." Bradley blinks. "We don't need it. You're on camera. We'll get it from the incident file." Naomi finally looks away from him, just long enough to see Kyle quietly reappear behind the bellhop stand, a phone pressed low against his chest. Angela snatches the form and holds it in front of Naomi's face. "Sign it," she demands. "This is your final warning." Naomi doesn't take the pen. Instead, she tilts her head, curious. "Do you issue these to every woman escorted for not looking the part, or just the ones who look like me?" Angela leans closer. "Just the ones who come in swinging legalese and attitude like it's a damn courtroom." A voice from nearby, a young black woman seated by the fountain, mutters, "This feels wrong," but no one else speaks. Most eyes avoid the scene. Naomi sighs. She opens her phone again and swipes to a folder labeled Board Ops Clearance. With a thumbprint, she opens a document. The header reads, Whitaker Grand Holdings, Ownership Structure and Rights of Internal Audit. The second line lists Naomi E. Whitaker, Chair Executive Oversight. She holds it up for Bradley to see, but not enough for the cameras. Just for him. 1 second. 2, Bradley's face stills. But he doesn't speak. Instead, he turns to Angela and mutters tightly. "Get it down here. Shut off the lobby display. Now." Angela doesn't wait. She turns on her heel and yells toward the front desk, "Kelly, override the lobby display. Cut it now." But Kelly stares at her screen, pale. I can't. It's locked. The system's in override mode from corporate." Angela storms over, nearly knocking over a velvet rope post, and leans over Kelly's shoulder. "Try again. Manual input Kelly's shoulder." Kelly shakes her head. It says, Board Level Intervention Disabled. Behind them, the big screen now shifts again. This time it displays a rotating archive screen titled Whitaker Internal Compliance Audit Live. Time code active. Location lobby. Gasps ripple through the room. Several guests turn their phones toward the screen. Naomi stands still in the center of it all, the only calm presence in a whirlwind of chaos. Then, Kyle's TikTok notification pings his pocket. He glances down. His video just under 60 seconds, capturing Angela's most cutting remarks and the beginning of Bradley's escalation, has already been stitched by a dozen creators. One caption reads, "Tell me this isn't the actual CEO they're throwing out." Another, "Why does this happen? While black." The views spike in real time. Comments flood in. Outrage spreads like fire. Angela snaps, grabbing Ramon by the arm. "Get her out! I don't care if you have to lift her. This is a PR nightmare already." Ramon hesitates again. "Ma'am, I really think we should wait." "She is not the CEO," Angela yells, her voice cracking now. "She doesn't have clearance. This is a security breach, and we will not let her stand here and hijack our hotel's systems." Kyle steps forward. "That's enough," he says quietly. "You're embarrassing yourselves." Angela turns on him, furious. "You want to be next? I'll write you up for insubordination right now." But Kyle doesn't move. Emmy slowly walks back toward the center of the lobby. Not rushing, not performing, just walking. She stops beneath the screen displaying the audit log and turns to face the room. Behind her, Kelly's monitor beeps again. This time, a new message appears. "Authorization confirmed. Naomi Whitaker, CEO, Whitaker Grand Holdings." Kelly's hand flies to her mouth. "Oh my God," she whispers. Angela doesn't hear. She's pacing, rambling to Bradley. "This can't be real. We would have known. This is staged. It's some deepfake. She planted this somehow." Bradley is dead silent now, face pale, his hands clasped together behind his back as he watches Naomi stand still in a room that suddenly feels like it belongs to her again. Then a new wave of alerts goes out. Corporate Slack channels light up, email chains ping across the East Coast offices, and Naomi's profile photo is pinned to the staff homepage. The lobby hushes. TikTok users are now live streaming from the sidewalk, narrating what they're seeing through the windows. And in the center of it all, Naomi opens her mouth and says quietly, 9 minutes. That's all it took to expose every flaw in your system." No one speaks. Even the fountain outside seems to go mute as the air in the lobby thickens with realization. Angela's mouth is slightly open, the edges twitching between denial and collapse. Bradley stares at Naomi like he's seeing her for the first time, not as a disruption, not even as a threat, but as something far worse for his world, a truth he can't control. Naomi doesn't gloat. She doesn't rush to fill the silence. She lets it hang. Let them feel it. Let the building remember who built its legacy, not just in dollars, but in blood, routine, and memory. Ramon takes one deliberate step back from Naomi's side, lowering his hand. "Ma'am," he starts, but she lifts a palm. "You've done nothing wrong. I suggest you stay neutral." He nods once, steps to the side, and fades quietly into the watching crowd. Bradley clears his throat and straightens his blazer, a practiced motion that doesn't quite land. "Ms. Whitaker," he says, the name suddenly heavier than he's used to. "There must be some confusion. If we'd known—" Naomi interrupts. "You didn't ask, because you thought you knew enough." She reaches into her bag and retrieves the unopened envelope she placed at the front desk earlier. She tears the seal in front of them now. Inside is a printed directive bearing the Whitaker Grand Holdings insignia and an embossed stamp of executive oversight. It reads, "Initiate full internal discrimination audit, property WGH2, effective immediately. CEO signature required, Naomi E. Whitaker." Angela lets out a choked sound, but Bradley catches her arm before she steps forward. "Don't," he warns under his breath. Naomi continues, her voice clear. "I haven't set foot in this lobby for 12 years. Not since the board voted on automation priorities and cut 50% of the service staff, most of whom looked like me, spoke like my mother, worked like ghosts. I didn't forget. I waited, I watched, and I returned." Kelly, still at the desk, pulls up the live executive feed from HQ. A corporate chat room is now visible, its messages streaming in for those who dare look. That's her, confirming authority. Firestorm incoming. Naomi nods once toward the screen. You may shut down that lobby feed now. I think they've seen enough. Kelly scrambles to comply. The screen goes dark again, this time not from protocol, but from command. Angela finally finds her voice. This isn't how things are done, she spits, eyes wild. You don't just walk in and embarrass an entire team. You don't springboard your way into our operation like some stunt queen. Naomi turns toward her slowly. I built this operation, she says, brick by quiet brick. The only difference is I never needed to raise my voice to be heard. You chose not to listen. Bradley tries to reclaim his footing. Surely we can take this to a private room. No, Naomi cuts in, sharper now. This isn't a personnel issue. This is systemic rot, and rot must be exposed in the light. She steps aside and gestures toward Kyle. Mr. Taylor has been a silent observer of this environment for over a year. He has filed reports that were ignored. He will act as interim general manager until the audit is complete. Kyle looks stunned, his mouth parting slightly. Ma'am, Naomi simply nods. You've already done the hardest part, telling the truth. Now, finish the job. Angela stares at Kyle like she's been personally betrayed, her voice trembling with disbelief. You're promoting him? A junior bellhop who breaks protocol and disrespects management? Naomi doesn't turn toward her. She addresses the room. It's interesting how quickly someone's title becomes their worth, or their weapon. I'm promoting integrity. The title just gives it volume. Kyle steps forward slowly, still unsure if this is really happening. Naomi hands him a tablet containing live access credentials. The board has authorized full data access for the next 72 hours. Begin logging every complaint, every termination file, every recorded incident tagged under Guest Conduct Escalation. Start with yours. Bradley makes one last attempt. His voice is measured now, almost soft. Naomi, let's be reasonable. The press is watching. Social media is already weaponizing this. You could have made a call. You could have come in through the back. We would have... Naomi turns to him. Exactly. You would have prepared. You would have scrubbed the numbers, briefed your staff, and buried the damage. That's why I walked through the front door like everyone else, so the system could meet itself in the mirror. She leans closer, not to threaten, but to make him look her in the eye. And you didn't like what you saw. Just then, Naomi's phone vibrates. She glances at the screen. An incoming video call request from the office of the Lieutenant Governor. She answers without turning her camera, only audio. Whitaker? A firm, official voice responds, Ma'am, the Governor's office confirms receipt of your audit notice. Civil Rights Division is prepped for oversight. If harassment claims escalate, we're ready to assist federally. Naomi responds, calm as ever. Thank you. I'll forward the first wave of footage shortly. She ends the call and slips the phone back into her coat pocket. The guests nearby shift uncomfortably. This is no longer a spectacle, it's a reckoning. Kelly, overwhelmed but loyal to the truth, raises a trembling hand. Mr. Whitaker, what do we tell the partners checking in today? The press. Naomi walks to the front desk and gently slides the receptionist's binder aside. She takes out a Sharpie from her own bag and writes something on a blank tent card. Then she props it on the counter. The message reads, This property is undergoing executive integrity restoration. Guests are still welcome. Disrespect is not... She turns to the crowd and speaks not just as a CEO, but as a witness. There are people in this building who never raised their voices because they knew it wouldn't matter. Today it does. Today the silence ends. Naomi steps aside, letting Kyle take her place behind the front desk. He stands taller than before, still nervous but anchored now by purpose. Naomi scans the room one last time. Angela's confidence has collapsed into quiet rage. Bradley stands silent, outflanked, and in every corner of the lobby eyes follow Naomi not with suspicion, but with weight, because they now understand exactly who she is and why she came. Angela's badge is deactivated before she even leaves the lobby. The system pings on Kelly's screen. Access revoked. User A. Morton. Angela stares at the screen, her breath catching in her throat as the realization settles in. "You can't do this," she whispers, more to herself than anyone else. Naomi turns slightly, just enough to see her from the corner of her eye. "I already have." A hotel HR representative, summoned silently by the board's internal alert, arrives minutes later with a company-issued envelope. "Angela Morton? Effective immediately, your employment is terminated under Executive Clause 2.17, gross misconduct and breach of equity standards." Angela refuses to take the envelope. This isn't real. She walked in here like a nobody and now suddenly, what? She's the queen of this place? Bradley doesn't speak. He can't. His silence says more than denial ever could. Angela's voice starts to rise. "You're all scared of her. She threw her title around and suddenly you're bowing down like sheep." Naomi meets her gaze calmly. "I never threw anything. I waited while you threw every assumption you had at me. I simply didn't move." Security steps forward, not forceful but firm. Angela finally snatches the envelope, her lips tight, and storms toward the staff exit with her head low and fists clenched. As she disappears behind the frosted glass door, the room doesn't erupt in applause. It exhales. The quiet carries the weight of justice settling into place. Bradley adjusts his cufflinks, a last act of pride, and steps forward. "I assume you want my resignation as well?" Naomi studies him for a long second. "Not yet. There's something more valuable than resignation." Bradley raises an eyebrow. "And that is accountability," Naomi says. "You're going to stand in front of the entire staff tomorrow, explain everything that happened here today, and begin the process of rebuilding what your negligence allowed to rot." A pause. Bradley's confidence wavers. "And if I refuse?" Naomi shrugs lightly. "Then your pension, your reputation, and every non-disclosure clause you've ever signed will be opened up for audit." Bradley exhales through his nose and nods slowly. "Understood." Naomi turns her attention back to Kyle, who now moves through the lobby as staff begin instinctively deferring to him, asking questions, seeking next steps. A new order is emerging, one that's been waiting under the surface. Not just about policy, about respect, about visibility, and it's clear. This hotel will never function the same way again. Later that afternoon, a formal memo is sent from Naomi's executive office to every employee inbox in the hotel chain. The subject line reads, "Immediate action items, Whitaker Integrity Protocol." Within it, directives are clear. All staff are to undergo updated equity and anti-BS training within 72 hours. Terminated leadership will be replaced by interim appointees with clean peer records. And a live town hall will be held at 10 a.m. the next day to address the events that transpired. Attached is a video clip, a short, silent moment showing Angela raising her voice in the lobby, Naomi standing still, and the moment her name reappears on the corporate screen. No narration, no caption, just the truth. By early evening, the hotel's PR team releases an official statement. The Whitaker grandee deeply regrets the events of this morning. Discriminatory behavior has no place in our institutions. The incident is now the subject of an executive review and independent oversight. Effective immediately, corrective measures have begun under direct supervision of CEO Naomi Whitaker. Within an hour, headlines begin surfacing across media platforms. Black CEO expelled from her own hotel, then fired the staff who did it. Another reads, Naomi Whitaker's silent power move goes viral. Online reactions range from outraged to inspired. Hashtags resurface, she owns it, while black. Bradley, true to her word, stands before the staff the following morning, eyes sunken, voice quieter than usual. He speaks without a script. What happened yesterday was wrong. It wasn't just a misstep in procedure, it was a failure of character. Mine included. No one interrupts. But no one interrupts. Behind him, Naomi stands, not to overshadow, but to witness. When he finishes, she steps forward and simply says, "This isn't about vengeance. It's about vision." She then turns to Kyle and gestures for him to speak. Kyle clears his throat and addresses the team, this time from the place where Angela once barked orders. "If you've ever felt invisible here, I see you now. If you've ever been afraid to speak up, you don't have to anymore. The locks are gone." That final sentence ripples through the room, not as metaphor, but as promise. One by one, the staff nod. Something is shifting, not just in policy, in culture, in courage. And it began the moment Naomi refused to explain herself and instead let the systems speak her name. The morning after the town hall, Naomi returns to the lobby, not as a symbol of disruption, but as herself. The rhythm of the hotel is slower today, more intentional. Staff greet her with cautious warmth, a new kind of respect growing in their posture. She walks past the concierge desk where her mother once stood scrubbing baseboards, past the elevator that had closed too many times before someone like her could get through. At the end of the lobby, beneath the mounted golden plaque bearing the hotel's name, a ladder awaits. Two maintenance workers are standing by, tools in hand, unsure if it's really supposed to happen. Naomi gives them a nod. They climb the ladder and begin to unscrew the brass-plated letters. The Whitaker Grand. Letter by letter, the name comes down, not out of shame, but rebirth. Naomi reaches into her coat pocket and removes a folded piece of paper. She hands it to one of the workers, who gently opens it and reads aloud the replacement. Whitaker Legacy Hotel. No silence allowed here. He nods, carefully aligning the first new plate. Naomi doesn't linger to watch it all go up. She walks outside to the courtyard, where the morning light slices between marble columns and benches that once ignored her presence. She sits on the same bench she and her mother used to wait at for the cleaning van after long night shifts. The old photograph is still in her bag. She takes it out, lays it on her lap. A 17-year-old girl with tired eyes, beside a mother who never stopped believing this place could one day belong to them. A reporter approaches, young, unsure if now is the right time. "Miss Whitaker," she says cautiously, "do you want to make a statement about yesterday?" Naomi looks at her, then back at the photo. "No," she replies softly. "I already made it. I walked through the front door." The reporter nods, understanding more in that sentence than any press release could explain. Naomi stands, brushes the folds of her coat, and heads back inside, where Kyle is now briefing the floor supervisors, where Kelly is coordinating welcome kits for every new hire, and where silence has finally lost its grip. This wasn't about revenge. It was about remembering, about reminding people that power doesn't always enter loudly, but when it's real, it leaves no doubt behind. The hotel doors glide open as Naomi steps out one last time that morning, the sun now fully above the skyline, casting a soft light on the fresh signage above her. A few early guests pause to read it, mouths forming the words quietly. Whitaker Legacy Hotel. No silence allowed here. Naomi doesn't stop walking. She moves like someone who has nothing left to prove, but everything left to build. A woman in a delivery uniform catches her by the arm gently and whispers, "Thank you for all of us who've ever been ignored." Naomi nods once, no speeches, just knowing. On the sidewalk across the street, a young man recording live for his followers says into his phone, "She didn't yell, didn't threaten, she just stood there and rewrote the rules." His followers flood the comments. "That's how you own power, corporate karma. She burned the whole playbook and built a better one." And as Naomi steps into the back of a waiting car, she glances once more at the hotel, then speaks the last line to herself, under her breath, just loud enough for the driver to hear. "Next time someone tells you that you don't belong somewhere, smile, and make them regret opening their mouth."